Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are filming my May wrap-up. So really quickly, I want to point something out. If the audio sounds different, it's because I just found out that one of my children, aka cats, chewed through the wire of the microphone. And so I need a replacement cord microphone, and that's the most expensive part. It's like $129, so wonderful. Anyways, there's not really much else to say here in this intro besides I just want to talk about the books I read in the month of May. Let's just go ahead and get right on into it. So as we all know, there is a lot going on in this world right now, especially with the injustice of Black people, and I would like to just use the small platform I have to not only raise awareness, but also just try and convince those of you that have not gone out of your way to sign petitions or to share information or to just honestly make the voice of Black people around you even louder, help them out, share their stories, share everything that you can, support the Black Lives Matter movement, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I just wanna let you guys know that in the description box of this video there are gonna be links and more information and all that kind of stuff, and I highly encourage you guys to go check those out. In fact, honestly, press pause on the video and do it right now. Don't even wait till the end of the video. I just want to really encourage you. I've been very vocal on my Instagram and my Twitter, and I know I always tell you guys to go follow me there, and I still want you guys to, but also definitely check out the stuff I've retweeted and the information that I'm sharing to my story every day and the few posts I've shared on my actual Instagram feed. So yeah, at Kendra Cus on both platforms, and if you want to for some reason see more reading stuff, then it's at Kendra Cus Reads. But I don't want to take too much time away from this video. I just felt that it's very important to me because it is not only a cause that I'm very passionate about, but also it's just something this is human. We're humans and we need to fight for other humans, and that's the point of this all. So let's go ahead and get on to the books. The first book I read was actually an ARC, and it was actually an ARC I'm very anticipating. In fact, I only have 2 ARCs on this list, but I have 3 ebooks, so I'm only gonna be holding up 2 books today. But the first book is an ARC. Like I said, it was heavily anticipated. It comes out in October. It's by V.E. Schwab, and it is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Looks like this. Let me just tell you what the book is about first, or what the book is pitched to be about, because I'm definitely going to tell you right now, without giving away any spoilers, that it was very different than what I had expected. But let me pull this up because it's been over a month since I finished this. So basically, in order for Addie to escape a path in which she doesn't want her life to go down, the year is 1714, I believe. Yeah, 1714. She makes a deal with the devil, essentially, devil of darkness kind of character, to go explore the world, live forever. She's much too ambitious for her small town kind of thing. So the devil agrees, but he doesn't really tell her at the beginning that the one consequence to this all was that no one will ever remember you. So she leaves the building and everyone forgets who she was. She knocks on the door, says hi to someone. If they close the door, they wouldn't remember. So she kind of has lived this life, an invisible life, for the last 300 years. It goes from 1714 all the way up to 2014, so it is really cool. You get the aspects of all this stuff. Anyways, this definitely sounds way more like a love story than it turns out to be, and I will say there is a lot of romance in it. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like there's not, but everyone says it's a love story between her and a 300-year love story between her and this devil of darkness, and I'm gonna say that is not true. There is barely, here's the thing, I guess I'll tell you what I rated this book. I rated this 3 stars. There weren't even ups and downs for me. Even from the beginning, I felt that this was gonna be a 3-star book. I will say, is the book beautiful? Yes. Is the story insanely unique and very detailed and very thought out? Yes. I am not telling you that V.E. Schwab wrote a bad book. And I'm also not trying to persuade you from reading the book, because I do think a lot of people would love this, and I understand why people would love this. Here are the problems that I have, okay? I'm being insanely dramatic today, and someone needs to tell me to chill. So one of the biggest things for me is this was written in third-person perspective. And now I don't really have a problem with third-person perspective. Some of my favorite books are in third person, But in this particular style that V.E. Schwab decided to go with, I felt that I was never fully getting to know Addie, or when the book was in, I forgot his name. That's how much I forgot, because I don't care anymore about the story. Henry. And when it was Henry's point of view, I also just feel like I didn't really get to know him. I just felt very distant from the characters, and that just didn't work for me, since I'm definitely more of a character-driven reader. Obviously, I want a good plot, but what's most important to me are good characters and like a good character arc and story and all that kind of stuff. So I just felt so disconnected to our characters. I couldn't relate to them. I understood their story, but I didn't feel any sort of, I don't know, I just didn't feel any sort of pull towards it. I didn't feel like I could relate to their stories. And for me, I fall in love with characters based off of how I can relate to them. Even if they're in opposite situations, even if their personalities are opposite than mine, there's always a way. I mean, we're humans. We strive to relate to others. We strive for human, like, interaction and relationships, and I just could not relate to them. It is a very slow moving book, and I don't think that's a fault to it. I just think you need to, if you go into it reading it, you need to understand that it's going to move very slow, and it's gorgeous. Like, the writing and the story's gorgeous. It's just very slow moving, so it definitely didn't keep my interest. I think it took me like 11 or 12 days to read this book, which is a bad sign, because usually, like, I'm not the fastest reader. I know some booktubers here on booktube read like 15 books a month or 11 books a month. I usually go through like 5 or 6 if I'm lucky, maybe 7. But it definitely took me like 11 or 12 or 13 days to read it, and that is just too long. I try to get through books within 4 or 5 days, a week at most. And then my biggest problem with this book is that the most enigmatic, alluring character, Luce, who I think is short for Lucifer. I can't remember, because again, it's been a month since I read this. We barely get to know him. He is a god, and we barely get to know anything about being a god in this world, about his other gods, about the mythology, and we also barely get to know his story. And I just feel like that was an extreme disservice to the story, because we're supposed to, I know we're never really supposed to love him, but he's just such an intriguing character. And you can't make the most intriguing character so shallow in the end. Like, I know he has a story, but we were never really told it. We were given bits and pieces throughout the course of the story, but not enough. And you know what? I just feel like I've been rambling on this book for too much. Let me see if I have any other notes. The last 10% of this book made me appreciate it more than I thought I would, and I will say the ending was perfect for the story, and it wrapped up the story perfectly. And I like I said, I think a lot of people will love this. I think it's mainly just me, but it wasn't my thing. But I can see why it was other people's things. Let's move on. So the next book I read in May kind of restored, because that definitely turned me into a little bit of reading slump. I'm not gonna lie. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue made me have a little bit of a reading slump. But the next book definitely restored my like love for reading, you know, or my crave to read. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. And that was Radiance. You know what? Your girl forgot who wrote Radiance, because I don't have the book in front of me, because it was an ebook. Honestly, I don't even know if they're sold, these books are sold. I would buy it. It was so good. Grace Draven. Okay, so I'm gonna start off by saying I give this book 4 stars. This book was so good. I got this recommended off of like Heather from Aphrodite Reads and Carly from Carly's Books. Like, I know Heather read it a while back, and then Carly read it after that, and I just saw their raving reviews, and I saw a couple other people on Twitter who had read it and gave it raving reviews, and I was like, it is time for me to get into it. I will say I'm really getting into more of the romance genre of things. I still prefer fantasy, but this is a fantasy romance, so it's honestly the best of both worlds. This is like a spin on Beauty and the Beast, except for it's like a million times better. Like, Beauty and the Beast shouldn't even exist, and this story should. So basically what this is about is it is about these two people from different kingdoms and their different species. The main character, the main female character, her name is Ildiko, and she is like a human, I think. I think she's just like a normal human. And then we have Brishan, who is a Kai, and they're kind of like monster-esque versions of humans, like from the book cover, it looks like that their bodies are shaped like humans, but they are definitely a lot taller, really muscular. Their skin is like a very dark gray. Their eyes are yellow and like no pupil, I'm pretty sure. It's just like yellow, like just like a yellow, like a bright, like a moon yellow. Just, that's what it is. It's shiny and it's a moon yellow. But they think each other are disgusting, but the thing I love about this book, usually I'm not into this, usually I'm into like angst and tension. Well, there was some tension in this book, but like angst and I don't know. They were such good people. Like from the start, they met each other and they didn't know who each other were yet, and they have this gorgeous, friendly, super sweet conversation, and then they, oh, did I even say they have to get married? I don't think I said that. So basically their kingdoms set up a marriage for them in order to help out the two kingdoms, because pretty sure in following in this series there's about to be some wars or some crazy political stuff and whatnot. So they marry them together in order to bring the two kingdoms together, and she goes off to live in his kingdom and she just learns this whole story, and they think each other are hideous. Like they don't, like the humans in the Kai, they don't think that they're good looking at all. They think that they're repulsive, essentially. But it turns into this like really like funny way that they communicate. They like quip back and forth a lot. There's a lot of banter and it's just so well done. The romance is so good when they finally do come together. It is so beautiful, and they fall in love, obviously, and they fall in love with their personalities, and in doing that they start to fall in love with what they look like, you know, and it's just chef's kiss. The romance was super well written. The steamy scenes were literally so amazing, but not only that, it's just a story of two decent people coming together. Like, doesn't matter what their differences are. It's so good. I highly recommend, and jump on that. Also, it was a very quick read. It's not that long of a book. There is a series and I do want to continue on it. I don't know if it's just a duology or a trilogy or what, but I do want to continue on. Okay, the next book I read was a reread of The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. So I participated in a Penguin Teen read along for this book, basically just to prepare ourselves for the release of The Damned, which is happening in July. And it was so good. Even the second time around, I found myself loving it just as much. I'm actually really bummed because I just got into tabbing books. The first book I read in June, I started tabbing, and I've been reading or tabbing every book I've read since. And I'm mad that I didn't start it for this book, but it's fine. I mainly did this on audiobook, but I did switch back and forth between audio and physical read when I could. And the read along was supposed to go certain chapters per week, and I just got so invested in the story that I just kept going, and I ended up finishing it way before the end of the month, which is fine. It was amazing. I highly recommend this. If you don't know anything about this, which I'm sure you do, and especially if you've been a subscriber since last fall, because I haven't shut up about this book. I love this book so much. But this takes place in the late 1800s. I believe it's like 1872. It takes place in New Orleans. There are vampires. There's a vampire human love, and there's a lot of angst, a lot of tension. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And also, Bastian is one of my favorite book boyfriends. He is the love interest in this. It's just so good. It's so good. The writing is so amazing. It's atmospheric. It's so, Renee Ahdieh truly paints like the most glorious, the most vivid picture of New Orleans in this story, and you just feel like you're a part of it. And also, I love so much Celine. She is one of the strongest protagonists. I love her so much, and 5 out of 5 stars. Even the second time around, I thought it was a 5-star book. It is so good. I don't know if it's like the perfect book. I definitely know there are faults to it, but I think because of the way it calls to me, that's why it's a 5-star book for me. So yeah. And then Penguin Teen sent me an e-arc of The Damned by Renee Ahdieh, and I know I can't really get into too many details because I don't want to spoil The Beautiful. If you have not read The Beautiful, what are you doing? I want to start off by saying that I gave this book 4.5 stars, and I'm kind of actually teetering in between 4.5 and 4. I don't really have too many like problems with it. I will say it wasn't as good, like it wasn't my favorite compared to The Beautiful. I think The Beautiful is a little bit stronger, but The Damned was so good and I'm not disappointed in it at all. I'm actually very curious to see how the story unfolds in the next one, but this book comes out July 7th. I think originally it was targeted for June, but because of the pandemic and everything going on, it pushed back a month. So definitely pre-order The Damned by Renee Ahdieh, the sequel to The Beautiful. It's so good. But let me get into my non-spoilery thoughts. I'm not going to even spoil the first book, so you don't have to worry if you haven't read The Beautiful. What I will say to those of you, and this information will make sense if you've read The Beautiful, but I'm not going to spoil The Beautiful, as I said. It is definitely more of Sebastian's book, which I am not complaining about. Bastian, as I said earlier, is like one of my favorite book boyfriends. And when you look back at the ending of The Damned, it makes sense. Like, his story has a lot to be told, you know? There's definitely a lot of layers that's gonna go on with his story. And so we needed it mostly from him. Also, based off of what happened at the end of the previous book, there is so much angst and tension in this. It is so good. I wish it was a little bit stronger in the romance factor, and there is still a lot of romance. I'll be the first to say that, but it wasn't as romantic as the first one, I guess you could say, but there was so much story to be told that I know why Renee Ahdieh had to focus on, you know, everything else that's going on. There were way more POVs in this book than in the first one. The first one I think had mainly Celine and then a couple chapters of Sebastian, but yeah, there were lots of different POVs in this book, which I enjoyed. I definitely liked getting to know these other characters. I love like all the characters involved in this series. And then the last thing I want to say as part of my review is this book takes a turn that you're definitely not going to expect. The world kind of gets a lot bigger and more vast, and that's all I really want to say. I definitely want you as a reader to experience it on your own first, because it is really amazing. It is really well done. Again, I did prefer book one, but I think based off of the new information we receive in book two, that book three could be, I could love it just as much as I loved book one. So I really liked it. I hope you guys do too. Just expect the unexpected kind of with this story, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely pretty different than The Beautiful, but obviously it still has the most important parts of The Beautiful. Don't feel like she just changes the story on us, because she doesn't. It has the most important characters, the most important elements, the most important things, but it just kind of changes a little bit and makes things a little bit more broad. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Moving on. The last book I read in May was Ruthless Gods by Emily A. Duncan. The reason I reread this, not only do I love it to pieces, but the reason I reread this is because we were supposed to have an overhyped book club for literally 3 Thursdays in a row, and it kept getting postponed, and then with everything going on, it got postponed again. So I'm not sure when the overhyped book club is going to end up having our overhyped book club live show on this book, but I did reread it, and I am prepared for the overhyped book club. If you guys don't remember, or if you weren't around my channel back then, I did read this. I got an arc of it. I think it was like October, which was about a month after I had read the first one, and I loved the first one. I loved this one more. There was definitely more of a journey of characters, of character arcs, and there were more answers. There were more, the story made more sense. It does have similar pacing issues, I think, to the first one, but I still love this so much. I gave it a 5-star the first time around, and I think I would maybe say a 4.5 star now. I do see some more faults, I think, now that it's not as exciting as it was the first time. But with that being said, I still think it's an amazing book. It's one of my favorite books. Malakias, or Malakiaj, however you pronounce his name, is one of my favorite book lovers, book boyfriends. He is such a dynamic character. There is a lot of like Rey vibes, Rey and Kylo vibes, but you know, I know a lot of people think that's really toxic, and that's to each their own to decide, but I love the romance between Malakias and Nadia. I think they are so dynamic themselves, and then put together, they have the most unique way of being in a relationship, way of communicating with each other. They're so in love, and they're sometimes so in hate, and it's just so good. There's so much angst and so much tension and so much, it's just so good. I love this story. I cannot wait for the third book. I do wish that I would have reread Wicked Saints before my reread of Ruthless Gods, but at the same time, who has the time for that? And I know I'll probably just do a reread of audio on these 2 books before the third book comes out sometime next year. So I love this book. Obviously don't want to get into too much because I've already raved about it in a previous wrap up, and It is a sequel, and I don't want to give away any spoilers, but if you don't know anything about this world, we have Nadia, who's a cleric, and usually people from her land, Kalyazin, can only speak to one god, but she's a cleric, and so she can speak to all the gods. And then we have a warring country named Trinavia, and you have two people from Trinavia. You have Seraphim, and then you have Malachiez. Malachiez and Seraphim both have very dark pasts, but Seraphim and Malachiez's stories are both very different. Malachiez meets up with Nadia, and they have to travel to Trinavia, and Seraphim is the prince of Trinavia. His dad's the king. And so it just creates this super unique dynamic. It's Slavic, Russian inspired, and the world is so dark and bloody and so much angst in this world, and it's so good. I love this book so much. It's just so good. I love this world so much. It's very, very atmospheric and aesthetic, and Emily A. Duncan just has a beautiful way of making worlds. I did tab this. I spent 4 hours to tabbing this the day we were supposed to have our live show because I wanted to make sure that I could go back and, you know, figure some things out. Plus, I just love this book so much, so why not tab it? Oh, and if I don't want to show you because it's kind of a spoiler, but on the back of this is the Owlcrate exclusive. This is the Owlcrate exclusive. On the back of this cover, there's some character art. Well, it's kind of like a scene too, so that's why I don't want to say it, show up, but it's a little bit spoiler. It's so good. So those are all the books I read in the month of May. I read 5 books. It was a little difficult. Like I said, it was in a little bit of a reading slump, and the Invisible Life of Addie LaRue took up a bunch of my time, but it's fine. We moved on. We're past it. And I did have a very, very great reading month, but I did find some books that I love. But I will say, this is just a little spoiler to the June wrap up. Girl, I have read so many books already in June, and there's been some amazing ones, so I cannot wait to have a June wrap up. I cannot wait to film that because I'm really excited about it. But that's gonna be all for today. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, as I said, check all the links in my bio, and don't forget to check out my social medias if you'd like to, just at Kendra Cus on both platforms. And I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a great morning, noon, evening, day, night, whenever happens to be there watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.